we have myself, and then we have these three incredibly talented people here today. I'm so grateful and excited about this. Scripting, dialogues, and conversations are something that I personally didn't really get into for the first number of years of my career. And boy, was that a mistake. I had this perspective that I was better off just being myself, and that scripting would somehow take away from that. Like if I had a prepared response or I understood how to guide a conversation better, then it was going to mean that I wasn't being real with people. And what was interesting is I actually discovered that, first of all, it didn't at all need to take away from me. Actually, I became more myself. I just got comfortable because I wasn't worrying about what they might ask next or what I was going to say. I was just being present. Okay. And the other thing is, I sold a lot more homes. And there's a number of reasons. First of all, I had a great way of responding when people ask me tough questions, but also my confidence level was just through the roof. Because, and I've been actually working on this with David. We've been trying to count all of the objections we can. There's like 30 different objections, maybe 50. I've got this weird theory that there's actually probably more like 5 if you really boil it down. That's what I was going to call you about, Dave. We've got to talk. And yet, if you can just learn how to manage these 5 conversations, then, or these 30 conversations or these 50 conversations, then the rest of this game is really easy. Okay, so that's what we're going to do today. We're going to talk to 3 people who have put a huge amount of time in their career into mastering this. I'm going to guide the conversation, and we're going to try to keep this fun. So I've just had a ton of people kind of after I stopped reading the prompts, drop stuff in. I love that. The more that you engage, the better here, guys. So, this is a panel presentation, but honestly, if we can just kind of have a conversation and have a dialogue, we'll all leave better for that. So get involved. Let's treat this like a mastermind. Raise your hand, ask questions. Feel free to unmute and interrupt us at opportune times, and let's do this. Okay, if you haven't met me, I'm Sean. I'm the founder of Endgame. I've traded in the Toronto market for 15, 16 years, blah, blah, blah. Top half of the top 1% of the Toronto real estate board, built a big team, did really, really well. 2-3 years ago, I actually sold my team, and now I've been focused on building this coaching company. It's something that I'm really, really passionate about. And to put it simply, I've made a lot of mistakes before. So I'm passionate about kind of sharing how to avoid some of the things I've tripped over in my career. And so that's what I spend a lot of my time doing, is helping people build their careers. I've got 3 amazing panelists and guests here with us today. I'm gonna kind of point towards them because they're what this is all about today. I love scripting. I got a ton of experience. I'm gonna add my own anecdotes, but I really want to highlight these 3 guys. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start by just actually kind of having a quick conversation with each of the 3 of them. Let them put their own words in their own mouth, tell you a little bit about who they are. And then once we've gotten through that, we'll get into some objections. So eeny, miny, mo, I'm gonna go with, I'm gonna go in the order of who I've known the longest. Mr. Shaw Hazy, I've known for, I don't even know, I want to say at least a decade, probably a decade and a half. And
Orlando. I think it was Orlando we met.
Yeah, it was. I don't know when it was. I can barely remember what pants I put on, my friend. So here's the deal. Shaw, I've actually got a really close relationship when it comes to scripting because he runs a large team, very similar to the team that I was building in Toronto. And for 7-8 years, we ran our team's scripting calls together. He's based out of Cambridge, Guelph area. By the way, he'll take great care of referrals. If you guys have anyone out there, make sure that you connect, and we'll have him drop his contact info in the chat later on. And we were like East Toronto. So it's this perfect thing. We're just far enough, like I'm not driving to Cambridge and he's not coming to Scarborough kind of thing. So we sent a ton of business back and forth, and we just every single day, 8:30 till 9, we were running dialogues. And I stopped after a little while because we were changing our team and stuff. And Shaw never quit. He's been doing scripting calls every single day for a decade. And so the level of polish this guy brings to the table is pretty remarkable. Shaw, tell us a little bit about your team
I don't know
now. Give
about
us a
that,
snapshot.
yeah, I mean, we started, and I'm foolish enough to do the same thing over and over again. It was 2014, I think we started that. Early 2014, January, February 2014, we started that scripting call. And it's funny because Sean's brother called a couple months back, not knowing that you and I had spoken, and said, I'm going away somewhere. I don't know where he went for a week. Can my guys jump on your scripting call if you're still running it? And he was surprised to find out that I was. Actually, no, he asked me about something else and found out that I was doing a scripting call. And then I realized, and I said, oh shit, I've been doing this for 10 years. Running a scripting call, talking about the same thing over and over again. the same structure, pretty much the same scripts mostly, and it's because we always have people coming and going inside of our company. I'm one of the original pieces. I've got other people here. Tyler's still here. Caroline's still here. So you would have been with them. Outside of that, everybody else has kind of cycled through, moved on, but we're still doing it. Still works. It's, my girlfriend's actually on here too, and she hears me go, okay, I gotta go, I gotta jump on scripting call. And she usually gets cut off every day at now 8:45. It was 7:45 before.
So the thing I love though is that you said it a minute ago. I just want to tie into this a little bit, guys. So a lot of the same scripts, same format of the call for a decade. So Shaw, what's the point in that? I mean, haven't you figured it out yet?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's the 10,000 hours. We always hear the 10,000 hours thing. If you do something for 10,000 hours, that's when you get to that next level. I always wanted to get to that next level, and you do it inadvertently, to be honest with you. The reality is we always have brand new agents in there, seasoned agents or what have you, and you're going to hear something a little bit different. I remember years ago we would work in an open office. My office is sort of open also, and you'd be making your calls or whatnot. We're real estate agents. This is eye to eye, ear to ear. We'd be making our calls and whatnot, and you'd hear something somebody said, and you'd add that in, right? I always called it a quiver, right? Quiver of arrows. You add that one piece in, then you start using it a little bit. Then all of a sudden you sound a little bit more polished. You said that earlier. How do we get polished? And the only way to get polished is you practice on your peers, not on your paychecks, right? And for anybody who's scared about scripting, don't be scared about it because you practice on your peers, not your paychecks. So when these objections come up, you know how to handle it. And you're right, there's less than 5 scripts out there to handle for the
Really
flow.
is. The cool thing is you end up with such an assortment of different ways to manage things that you'll be sitting across from one client and you might get the exact same objection, but from a different person the next day. And you choose a different way of helping them because that's all it is that you're looking at their the challenge they have with understanding the situation that they're in. You're trying to guide them.
Yeah.
And one personality might gravitate towards a different solution, a different conversation more than another. So it gives you this kind of calmness. You mentioned like mastery and getting better and better and better and just doing it over and over and over with time. And one of the things that I would really argue to everybody is like if you boil down what we really are paid quite well to do when we're top producing agents, it really all centers around conversations. Like that's the craft of this business. There's all this trinkety stuff like the database, the software, the automations. That's not what makes people choose you. It's the way that you interact. And so if you really
Yeah,
want to be the
emotional
best that you can
intelligence.
be,
It's 100% the emotional intelligence is the most important part of sales. So I always say I'm a human being first and a salesperson second, and that's to your level of emotional intelligence. We look at scripting and we treat it like it's this ugly used car salesman of a technique to get somebody to kind of understand something. But I mean, you want to show homes to somebody for 3 years, which I've got clients that I've 3 years, right? They're still not open. Um, and you don't script, you're going to show them for 5 years, right?
so how do you help people with that, Shaw? Because I know that like you've got a larger organization or medium large organ. How many agents do you have? Just give it to me. 10,
16,
12 people, 16
16.
agents. That's a big team
Yeah.
by any measure.
Bro, it's a
So
brokerage now. So I don't know if
right.
it's a team, but yeah, it's a brokerage, but a team brokerage. Yeah.
Okay, well, even better. So how do you help people? Because I like me myself, when I got into business, I looked at scripting. I said that sounds canned. I don't want to be fake. I thought I would turn into this kind of sales robot kind of thing. How do you help someone who starts out like what I started out like, hopefully bridge the gap to understanding that this isn't kind of like evil witchcraft maybe a little bit sooner? How do you handle that conversation? Where would you
Generally,
help?
people who join your company are of the same culture. We're a culture of productivity. That culture of productivity means when you are faced with this situation where you're now in a scripting call and somebody calls your name out, you just participate and you fumble. We always appreciate the things they did well and then touch on the things that they could improve on or give the other suggestions. And again, I mean, we all started with 0 hours, right? When we did start our first scripting calls, I remember starting them with you guys. We were all brutal, right? Dylan was always good. I don't know how he was always good at it, but there were things that we could handle and things we couldn't handle. And over time, you get better. And then you hear those agents. And once they realize they're actually getting better at it, they are the ones who are now have the culture of that standard of that scripting call. They're the ones saying, yeah, you got to jump on that. It really helps. And when a group environment is all saying, yeah, you need to jump on the scripting call, and then that's what they do, and that's why they show up. Is it mandatory they're on that scripting call? Do they get fired? Absolutely not, but they show up. Most of them show up every single day, right?
It's
The
funny.
ones who are really good at it, and I always give them shit because I said, listen, you could learn something on these calls too. I know you're good and you're doing transactions. You could learn something on these calls, but they'll come on when they come on, right?
uh, it's funny you mentioned. For those of you who don't know him, Dylan is my brother, and so that's who I built and ran my team with. He said, "Well, Dylan was always good, but what many people might not know about Dylan is he's like a professional television actor for a decade. So he had plenty of scripts
Yeah,
practice before
absolutely.
real estate. So he came in and this was just like, oh, this is easy, right? So it's time on task over time, right? Um, Shaw, what do you do now to perfect your scripting? I mean, I know that you're still practicing a lot. Is there anything else that you're doing? Like, where are you
Yeah,
finding
we're
you
we're
improve
always trying
further?
to do better things. We still use tools like language of sales or truth about sales. I don't know what they call it now. We just finished a book, What to Say, for real estate agents. It was a really
Exactly
good
what
book.
to say. Great book.
Exactly what to say. It was a great book to go through and just add little things in. But what we do now and we do still is we are constantly scripting to our environment because everybody, I don't know about BC or anywhere in Canada, I'm sure we all felt that pain last year of June to November was like this pond water of a sales cycle, right? Arizona might be a little bit different, but we have had ups and downs. So we're always moving around and our conversations are based on our current environment. Right now, we're in multiple offer environments here. Again, we're back to that craziness. So we are starting to talk around what does the conversation have to look like in this environment so they're all prepared for it. So, I mean, do we do anything special to get better at scripting? No, we just do it every single day. There's no, there's no, there's no short, you know, quick way to get successful at scripting other than doing it every day. So 4 days a week. I
I
lie. We do it Monday to Thursday. Fridays we have personal things. So Monday to Thursday we're on a scripting call.
Awesome. All right, I'm going to keep moving. I'm going to go to David. Thank you so much, Shaw. We'll come
No
back
worries.
and hammer you in a sec with some objections. All right, Mr. David, talk to me. What I want to hear is a quick career flyby. How long have you been in the business?
Sure. So I've been in the business for 2.5 years. I was our brokerage's rookie of the year, though I mean, we didn't have many rookies that year. My first year I did 350 in GCI. My second year, the same, which I consider a win because the market was a lot of agents lost about 30%. And then this year I'm on track to do probably between 6 and 650. Um, and I'm really just going to build on what Sean and Shaw just said. I have a background. I was a professional jazz saxophone player, and what we do is so based on practice, repetitions, learning material, learning little chunks of language, and being able to piece it together appropriately. So it's funny. Shaw mentioned the arrows and the quiver. I always talked about another puzzle piece. So it's very similar, and I have a very similar approach. I'm just a bunch of years behind him. So my guess is that he's going to kick my ass today because he has the right approach.
Okay, cool. So what things have you done in your actually let me back up a little bit, David. I want to ask you this first. What was your mindset of scripting before you got into the business? Was it something that you came in and you were like, oh, I want this based on my experience in music? Or did you get in and you're like, oh, that's weird. I hadn't thought about that. How quickly did you come around? Can you talk to me about that?
I knew what to do with that right away, just because I went through it with music where I didn't want to learn a lot of material and recycle stuff. And then I had a teacher who gave me a really good analogy, and he was talking about how you're in. I don't want to get too deep into music here, but how whenever you're learning, a little piece of language, it's just like a real language. And if you don't want to learn those phrases, try writing a book without using any words that people have used before. It's absolutely necessary. So that took me a long time, and then when I did figure that out, it was the difference in my growth was huge. So I recognized right away that it was the same approach necessary.
Cool. Okay. Walk me through a few of the things that you've done in developing your scripting skill.
Sure. So I did a scripting call that our office had, and it was it's a little hit or miss, and I recognized right away that after scripting with a bunch of people, the issue that we had is that people didn't want to repeat anything, and I knew that that's just a recipe for never really learning something. So I started my own scripting group, and based on, I didn't have a lot of experience in real estate, but I'm a world-class practicer. I know how to do that. So it's been a couple iterations, and so we do a script a week, and that's been going for a year now, about that year and a half maybe, in a couple different iterations. And so yeah, we focus on one script a week. We add some objections and stuff like that, of course, and we typically go 12 weeks at a time and kind of plan out a little bit of a curriculum. So I'll say some stuff that I think would be good, and then other people will bring other things to the table that are usually great, and I didn't think. It's nice. It's collaborative. I lead it, but I always remind them, just because I'm leading this doesn't mean I'm the best scripter in the group. So I have to press them hard to give me a lot of hard feedback.
I want to go back to something you said, because you mentioned that you're a world-class practicer. Yeah. And I have a background in music as well, not at nearly the level that David's at, but the process of practicing music is so incredibly painful compared to what we do on scripting calls. Can you talk me through a little bit? Okay, like if you were practicing the saxophone, how long would you sit down and practice for?
Oh, I went through different stages in my career, but
give me the craziest. Give me the craziest stage.
I did 8 hours a day for 18 months.
And that's just like running through fun tunes, right?
No, it's really structured. It was basically down to the minute. So I did 16 30-minute exercises. And so I could map out, like if you gave me a time of day, I could tell you what I was doing to the minute.
And the point is, guys, is, there's this saying, practice makes perfect. And it's actually, it's you should make it a little bit longer, because perfect practice makes perfect. Practice doesn't make perfect. You need to actually practice doing it perfectly if you want it to be perfect. A lot of the time, we just kind of wing it, and we might even make ourselves worse off. So being really purposeful about how you approach things and doing one script for an entire week, that might sound stupid. You're like, what do you mean, Sean? It's a couple sentences. But when you get into the nuance and you really slow down and say, like, okay, well, if I was to deliver this hard news to someone, or if I was going to help someone really change their plans about what they're trying to do in their life, their career, their whatever, and you realize like the gravity of that situation, there's a lot of good reasons that you'd spend an entire week on just a couple sentences. I know it sounds crazy, but it's absolutely not. From my perspective, Shaw's been doing the same call with the same basic scripts for 10 years. A lot of it's him teaching, but he's still picking things back from his group, because you hear little things, and it builds out that muscle group over time. So that's awesome. David, anything else that you'd add for someone who's trying to figure out how to get started, or maybe still has a limiting belief surrounding whether or not scripting something that they should be open-minded about?
Totally. Actually, to build on something you said, Sean, where you said you were worried about not being genuine, I feel like what scripting really does is it allows you to get out of your own way. So you want to be genuine, you have a thought you'd like to express, and it's actually just practicing how to get that actual genuine thought across without stumbling and making the person that you're speaking with lose confidence in you.
Awesome. Yeah. Just to layer on that too, the other thing that happens, guys, that's so cool, is when you start getting confident and you know that you have all the answers you need, you become a better listener. It makes a huge difference, because you're not thinking about what to say next. You already know. You've literally rehearsed it. So you actually are able to better listen to your clients and then guide them using, best practices that you're confident with. So cool. Okay, I'm going to keep moving because I want to get into some scripts. Eric, thank you so much for being here. Now, I'm going to give some background, everybody. Shaw, I've known for like over a decade. David, I've known since literally his first couple of weeks as an agent. He was in one of the groups that we were helping to run for his brokerage. And Eric, it's my first time seeing his face. He's come highly recommended to me through a miraculously influential dear old friend of mine who runs a huge group of agents across the world and has a massive team in Scottsdale. And I was like, hey, if you wanted someone to come and just highlight what it looks like to be incredibly polished in dialogues and conversations, who would you talk to? And he was like, I've got just the person. So that's where Eric came from. Eric, thank you and welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. I'm honored to be here. You set the bar pretty high. I hope I can live up to some of that today. Holy cow. I love what we've heard already. I think that any opportunity like this, obviously to connect and to help each other grow, but I've already learned from Shaw and David. I've already written down some notes. So I hope everybody else is having that experience too and playing full out, being engaged today. Right on, man. Yeah, that's awesome. And the guy that you mentioned, I actually used to coach all of their agents. And one of the things that we were really specific about was language and scripting. So
hold on, you do some coaching and give me your background. So who's Eric Kelly? What does this look like?
This is my 22nd year in real estate. Before that, I had a corporate sales job. I left that because I was flying 100,000 miles a year and I had 3 little kids at home and I just didn't want to do that anymore. But I love relationship-based selling. I love the opportunity to really connect with other people's needs, to come up with strategic solutions, and to build relationships, loyal, trust-based relationships. And so I had a lot of early success in my late 20s and early 30s in the corporate space. And, you know, and then things shifted, like change happened, disruption happened, and I had to kind of reinvent myself. And so when I looked around and thought, you know, what's community based, what would keep me close to home, what's relationship based, and what doesn't really have a ceiling, it's got kind of an entrepreneurial spirit to it. Real estate was just a natural fit. And so I made the transition to real estate. I often joke it's the default profession of choice. A lot of times when we've run out of options and we feel like we're unemployable and we're almost out of money, we're like, I'll get my real estate license. And so that's kind of what happened to me. That's how I got into real estate. So I've been at it for 22 years. I've had a team of up to 7 people before. I've been partners in a market center. I owned a market center for a number of years, had that experience, which was really awesome. I've really scaled my team back now. I sort of apply that experience in a little bit different way. I've always had a relationship referral-based business, so I don't do probably the same scale of business that my co-collaborators today do, but I'll run usually 35, 40 transactions a year personally. So I kind of keep my hand in the game. I have had the experience to have a lot of clients that just become friends because we're building relationships. We're building deep relationships. And I've been really fortunate to, you know, enjoy their trust and confidence in me over a long period of time. And so that's kind of what my business looks like now.
Right on. Okay, so let's talk about dialogues because you got into it in a corporate sense. Was conversational, I'll say conversational rehearsal, something that you did early before even getting into real estate, or was it something that you discovered along your way in real estate? What does that look like?
It's definitely something that I brought some skills from my corporate life. My client base was Fortune 500 companies. They were signing multi-million-dollar service contracts, and I was representing a company and dealing with people that were way smarter than me, that had MBAs, that had way more business experience. So I had to learn that dimension of the business, but mostly I had to be able to build trust and confidence in me. And so when I would meet a new client early in the relationship, one of the things that I already said is, hey, I just want to let you know how I work. You're not always going to like everything I have to share with you, but I believe in being open and honest, and whatever comes up in our relationship, I'm going to let you know and we'll just work through it together. Does that sound fair to you? And that just really resonated deeply with people. And it kind of set the foundation for how our relationship was going to go forward. And it saved my bacon, I guess, for lack of a better word, many times, was just the relationship. And so I think that same thing so much applies to real estate. I was coaching an agent that's in my network last week on pre-framing expectations with clients. and pre-framing hurdles and obstacles and things that are going to come up in the transaction, because it eliminates the conflict or the blame or the putting us in defensive mode or kind of the adversarial emotion that can come up, because we're working in a business where it's an emotionally driven decision that's justified by logic. And so Shaw mentioned emotional intelligence, and I think that that's so important. And both Shaw and David mentioned practice, and I love practice on your peers, not your paychecks. I thought that was brilliant. And then David, what you shared about learning music and playing notes repetitively, and you said become a world-class practicer. And I think that that is the key. I mean, I would, even when I was on the road, I'm rehearsing in my mirror in my hotel room, and just basically because I'm like, I don't want to freaking screw this up. Like, so we shift from having in my world, I shift from having a company relying on me to do a good job to having my family, my clients, and my community depending on me to do a good job.
Loved what you said too about how you're like, I don't want to screw this up for the corporate side, but then you get into real estate and it's like it's a different gravity because they're not multi-million-dollar contracts and it's not someone kind of hanging over you. But at the same time, you said it was emotionally driven and backed by logic. And I think I mixed that up a little bit, but I hope I got the essence of it. And that's in real estate. First of all, it's highly emotional to our clients. So being better prepared to manage those emotions isn't just a service to us because it's going to help us stay calm and maybe not have a giant ulcer a decade from now after we've been in this business for a while. Yeah. But it's also a service to them. Our job is to be the calming person, help them guide them through that tough conversation. So the more that you can help them through that, it just elevates the level that you really bring. And guess what, guys? There's always going to be something that comes up. This is real estate. We're dealing with people. It's emotional, and we're dealing with their homes. So there's a lot of emotion that comes through in a transaction. The better that we can guide them, it just makes a huge difference. What would you say, Eric, to someone who was apprehensive? I know I've asked every one of our guests some variation of this. Like, how do you help someone who looks at the concept of scripting? And I think that's the worst word that we could use to describe it, but we'll just stick with that. They look at the idea of scripting and they're just like, they want to peel their skin off. This sounds so terrible. What would you say to that person?
I'm very specific about language. Like, I don't even like the term leads or lead generation. It's relationship development and business development from my perspective. And so what I have always looked at, first of all, I think understanding our fiduciary responsibility, we are playing a vital role in the most important chapters of people's life story. We are guiding them through a process where they are buying their first home, they're buying the home that they're going to raise their family in, they're building their dream home, they're buying their last home, or maybe it's their family that is resolving at the end of someone's life, these assets and things that they've accumulated. And so these are really critical moments. And so my ability to be able to navigate those conversations and do it in an intentional way removes me from thinking about myself in the process, and it allows me to focus on them. And so you mentioned, and I think everybody agreed, that there's only a handful of scripts that you really need to master. And then what I think you need to do is become a highly skilled question asker and a professional listener. And if you can do those things, and mastering the scripts and dialogues, as we label them, mastering that element allows you to feel competent and comfortable, and it creates a repeatable process, which is going to ensure the experience that you desire to have your clients have with you. So
that's awesome. I'm not even going to try to wrap that up. You did such a beautiful job. Guys, I had a really interesting experience. I'm working on another project that David knows about, and I mentioned it briefly to Shaw, but in addition to today, I'm also, in the second half of this year, I'm launching a contest called World's Top Agent, where we're doing essentially a scripting battle, and we're doing a knockdown tournament between. We're going to start with 32 people. We're going to whittle it down to one grand winner. It's going to be really fun. But when we shot the pilot episode, we did this funny thing where we had a couple people there who were like members of the public that were meant to be, responding and asking questions and kind of talking about how they felt after each of the contestants managed the objections that we gave them. And so one of the questions that we asked them at the end of the whole thing was, and these are members of the public, these are not They have no real estate experience. We said, okay, well, based on your experience today, would you want a real estate agent using sales scripts on you? And we were very particular with our language. We called it sales scripts because that's about as cringy as the description can get. 3 out of 3 said that they would want it after they felt what it was like to work with a highly experienced agent. So it's not just being a better listener. It's not just helping guide people through tough situations and keeping people moving forward towards their objection when there are things that are challenging along the way. It's also literally, they want it. They want a professional. Think when you go to, you step onto an airplane, commercial flight, you got the pilot up front, like they're following a checklist, guys. You go to the dentist, you don't call them up and they go, oh, shoot, okay, well, what should we do? You know, why don't you tell me what you want? What do you want? You want a root canal? No, they've got a process, they've got a procedure. That's all that this is. Okay. So here's the deal. I think it's go time. I'm ready to have some fun. I blew through the first 35, 40 minutes. Is about exactly what we said we were going to do. And now it's time for some objections. I was just Googling this, everybody. Tell me if you can hear this. Hold on. Right? I gotta stop it. I'm gonna have trouble getting this loaded onto YouTube if I keep that going. Okay, here's the deal. Let the games begin. What I want to do is I want to use the next couple minutes and we're going to talk about some of the most common objections. So we're going to have a bit of a dialogue with all 3 of our panelists, okay? And then from there, we're going to go into like hammer time. And I'm just going to absolutely throw back-to-back objections at these guys. And I think what we're going to do is we're going to do it kind of like buzzer style, like they were on a game show. So they're going to raise their hand and say, ooh, 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 I got this one. Okay. But first, let's talk about money. We can't have a conversation about scripts and dialogues without talking about commission, because it's one of the most common things that we talk about. I want to just put an asterisk here. I'm going to ask all of our panelists. We have people from all different brands and denominations here. We're not going to use any numbers. We're going to talk in generalities about how you address challenging conversations surrounding money to make sure that people understand that there's a balance between what they pay and what they get. Okay. But we're not going to say, well, commission is blank or anything like that. Okay. Sounds good. Y'all ready for this? Cool. All right. Your commission is too high. What's the way that you set the premise around this when someone asks this question? Who wants to go first? It could be in a combination of different deliveries too. It could be your commission's too high, or I have another agent that will do it for lower, or, you know, I'm not sure I'm comfortable with this, or I won't net enough. Can you guys talk to me a little bit about how you open this conversation in a way that's collaborative with the prospect? Eric.
Yeah, I'll take it. I would say a couple things. Number one is you'll face this objection a lot less if you're building value through your connection and your communication in the process. The majority of clients that we sit down with don't even raise the commission issue. It's more of just an explanation of how the process goes. So that yet is another advantage of mastering some scripts and dialogues and building a strong value proposition in your engagement. What I would say is, well, Sean, understand that, you know, I appreciate your concern. Understand that there are 3 essential elements to successfully selling your home. Those are price, positioning, and promotion. And what I'm here to do is give you a professional perspective on exactly what each of those elements need to be in order to get the result that you want. And I know that sometimes a fee can seem higher than we want, but ultimately, isn't it your goal to net the most amount of money and be able to make that transition on the timetable that you choose?
Beautiful. So what I love about that is in without value, money becomes the only thing, right? Like value is the balance between what you pay and what you get. And you're highlighting that in a really beautiful way. And I think that when we look at the money conversation, usually that's what is underlying it, is that, like you mentioned, Eric, you probably haven't shown them well enough what the value truly is. So they've got this question mark in the back of their head. And then a lot of us, what'll happen is we'll hear that question, we get defensive, right? We want to push back, and then we're combative. And that's just the worst conversation you could possibly find yourself in. But instead, if you can help them understand that really what we're trying to do is balance everything we need to in order to help them get the most money, then all of a sudden it's a win-win. Let's go to David or Shaw. What else would you add?
Yeah, I get a lot of the in-betweens. Like what Eric's saying is, those are people that know him, trust him, have used him in the past where they come in and they see the value of his service. Um, Luckily for me, I get everything else where commission is a generally 9 out of 10 ask. Unless you take all of their problems away in your presentation, you take all their pain away, which we are in that market right now, then they don't ask, right? Because you're doing what nobody else could do for them. But a lot of the times I do get that commission thing. And I break it down to three things. That's three things. Understanding, isolating, and overcoming. Right? Because a commission, every objection is broken down to that framework. Understand. When what I mean by understand is, hey Sean, it sounds to me like you want to save the most amount of money in this transaction. Am I right? Yeah. Okay. So is commission the only thing stopping us from getting into business here and today, Sean?
I mean, yeah, I'd say so. That's probably it.
So if I could come up with a number you're willing to pay, a number I'm willing to accept, we could probably get into business here and today.
I think if we can do that,
That's
and I'm
that's the second
comfortable.
part, isolating. Okay. And overcoming. This is now when you add in all your crap. You don't just hit them with your crap. Okay, Sean. Well, what we do know is if you put the right amount of money behind your listing, it's going to sell. Okay. And it's going to sell not for the money that you will accept, but the money that you need and the money that you want. Okay. So the last thing I would want to do is put less commission out towards your listing to make sure that it gets out there and it gets in front of everybody possible. Okay, Sean. The best part about me is I only charge 2.5% commission. Okay, we just have to figure out how much we're going to pay the other party. So these are and then I'll just go in and I'll say you can either pay this, or that with that,
Beautiful.
right? And then we handle it sort of that way. But again,
Just
that
the three
understand,
things
isolate,
again, Shaw. What were those?
isolate, and understand is repeat it back to them. If you said, I got to think about it. Okay, so what you're saying to me is you have to think about it. Don't say, okay, I get it. That's completely normal. Don't acknowledge it. Just repeat it back to them. That's the simplest part of it. Repeat it back to them because now what that's happening is one, I'm getting Sean to say yes. Yes, yes, yes. It's at the end of this. I want him to say what? Yes. So I'm going to have him repeat it back to me. And because that creates rapport immediately. It means I listened. You go home and you say to your wife, or she says something to you and you go, what was that? And she's already mad at you, right? Partner, wife, whatever, because you didn't listen, right? You repeat it back. So, and if you go home and your wife says something and you go, you wanted me to take the garbage out? Now you heard her and she's okay with you, right? But you go, what was that? Right? You're getting shit right away, immediately. Jackie's on here, so I should definitely be doing this type of stuff. And then isolate, making sure that it's the only thing. And I made sure I stayed on isolate twice. I made sure I stayed on it twice because if I can get them to commit to that, there's nothing else stopping us. Okay. There's nothing else. We're moving into contract after that. And then overcome is that's when we want to hit them with something. The problem when we get an objection in our markets, in our world, what we want to do is give them the new fancy objection handler that we know. And if Sean said to me, well, would you do it for less commission? And I hit him with an objection handler right away, we're now arguing. We're now fighting. Okay. I want him to slowly come along, say yes along the way, and then get over that objection. And you'll notice I use this all the time. I use this with everything.
So, and this is actually something that we teach all the time is when it comes to isolating, you really got to pause there. So what happens if they have another question, Shaw? Well, after the commission, I think I need to talk about blank. What happens then?
Talk about blank. Then we go right back through it. We go right back through that exact same understand, isolate, overcome. So was it commissioner or was it this? Because I don't know, would you be open to getting into working with me today based on X? Right? There's all the different ways we could take them through that to get them to that next side. But the simple objection handler is if somebody said commission, there's 1,000 different ones. So when you got to pick the one that day that works for you. But I like Eric's because I had one last week that I went in. She didn't even balk at commission. Just signed it up, full commission, no problem. And those are the ones that you're like, yes.
Yes.
You just walk out. I didn't even have to bring it up. Sometimes I
Would
bring
have
it up.
asked if you didn't feel confident. She would have asked if you didn't feel confident.
And a lot of the times at the end of my listing presentation, I said, is there anything that another agent has said to you in regards to selling, marketing, representing your home that I may have forgotten to mention? And they say no. And that's when I throw commission in myself, because I want to be a human being. Like, well, there's a big one thing I can tell you didn't bring up. I said is commission. And I bring it up because I know I can handle it. I'll take them to the commission a lot of the times. I know I can handle it because if you bring it up and you throw it in at that end of it, now there is nothing else. I'm helping them isolate that next move, that next step forward. So I can walk in and I can leave. Because remember, my type of listing appointments, I don't know who these people are. I've never met them. I've only ever talked to them on the phone. They only ever asked me to come sell their house because they're either in a problem presentation. Well, it's usually right now, it's a lot of problem. Nobody right now in our market's going, you know what? I think I'm going to upsize because it's going to cost me 6 times as much with today's interest rates. Nobody's saying that. These are all problem presentations. So that's why you're going to see this a lot. So I know we didn't really go back and forth with the scripting. So people are going, I want to hear the scripts.
That's all right. I'm going to hammer you guys in about 10 minutes. David, anything you'd add on commission, or should I give you a new one?
Honestly, I think commission is the easiest one as long as you do a good job at your actual job and you can demonstrate that. You know, if you do a poor job, your marketing sucks, your communication sucks, you're going to have trouble. But when you look at the average agent, and anybody who is attending something like this today is probably not the average agent. I think we're very spoiled, and we sort of we hang out a lot together, so we don't get to see what a lot of the average agents are like, and the value difference is enormous. So I've always found commission is a pretty easy one as long as you can just demonstrate the value.
Well, I will add to that too, because that I think is really important. And I went through a really painful moment in my career. I'm trading in the Toronto market, and it was probably about 2010, 2012, somewhere in there, that it became the norm for larger, more established agents to provide staging. So what happened was there were all these big teams, and they went out and they bought all this staging. And then all of a sudden, it happened over the course of like maybe 1 quarter. Every listing that I went in on, I was in competition against another agent that was offering free staging for the same price. And I got beat up. And shame on me, because I was trying to outmaneuver using a dialogue when in reality, I wasn't matching the market. And so what David said was really smart, because you do need to do a good job. You can't just outscript someone else who has a better offer than you. So you get your offer up to the point that you're comfortable with, and you choose. It's up to you. You be a full service, high tier agent. You can, be somewhere in the middle. You can be on the bottom lower level in terms of what you bring to the table. Any option's fine. But people are smart, and there's more information out there than ever. So if your offer comparatively isn't worth them considering, they're going to go to someone who has a better offer. So there's no scripting around that. You got to do a good job, guys.
Yeah.
Let's talk about getting appointments. I know that this is something that often comes up where you'll be in follow-up with someone, and it was one of the questions that was dropped in the chat. They're getting close, and they're apprehensive about meeting you. So let's say maybe this is someone who has told you straight to you that they want to be like selling their home in the next 30, 60, 90 days, and yet they're apprehensive to meet. So you haven't actually gotten to see the home. Because anyone here would know, this is a process, not an event, right? Selling a home is not like a thing that just happens all of a sudden. There's a process, and typically homeowners underestimate the amount of work that it takes to prepare a home for sale. So what'll happen is they'll wait, and then they have you in at the time that they want to be listed. But in reality, they probably really should consider doing 4 to 6 weeks of getting their crap out of the backyard and clearing countertops and packing up some things. So how do you manage this dialogue? How do you help people to understand that it makes more sense for them to get together with you sooner, get your foot in the door first? Who wants to talk about this a little bit?
And this is Ashley's, right?
This is Ashley, yeah.
Listen, Ashley, do you want to role play this? Sean, is that okay?
I love this.
I would love to.
If my agents have a problem within something, we role play it, and then I make them do it back with me after. We won't make you do that, but
Into you.
Well, I'll tell you a funny story about where this question comes from. Is I actually lost a listing this way to Sean and his brother. And so I was trying to meet
Awkward.
with the seller, and I'd like done all the like CMA and like drop offs and like all these things, like so consistent in my follow up. And then he was like, yeah, okay, fine. Like, I promise I'll meet with you next week. And this had been going on and on. And it was like 3 days later, and I saw their sign go up on the lawn, and I was like, of course. Of course.
Oh.
So I'm here to learn scripting from someone who outscripted me, and we're role playing the exact same scenario on your training. And it just couldn't be a better full circle moment, I don't think.
So you could handle this multiple different ways. A lot of the times we'll do the assumptive I'm in the neighborhood. So I'd call you, be like, hey Ashley, Shaw calling, how are you?
I'm good. How are you, Shaw?
I'm good. I'm good. I noticed I know you're home. You were looking at getting up in the next few months there. How's the preparation coming along? Have you been doing anything?
We're doing okay. We've got some things that we're planning on moving into storage, that
Sure.
starting the decluttering, deep cleaning stuff.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah,
Well, selling's never very fun. Buying the home's absolutely a blast. Selling's not really that fun because there's a bunch of work involved. Okay, and at the end of it, you
that's
got to
right.
move it, right? Nobody wants to do that, but is where we are. Ashley, you know what? I don't normally do this, but I'm in your neighborhood tomorrow. I can stop in, and the reason I want to stop in is because a lot of the times in this market that we're in right now, I've found a lot of people over improve their properties. What I mean by that is they decide that they're going to renovate a bathroom floor or change fixtures, or, I had a client actually had a gazebo once, and I thought, what are you doing? There, I want to make sure that when we come in, we look at your property, we tell you what you need to do to maximize your dollar. Okay. We want you to get $1.50 out of every dollar in, not 50 cents on the dollar. Does that make sense?
It does. I mean, we're not planning on renovating or anything crazy
Yeah.
like that. We just have some small little things, and the place is a mess right now. So I'd really prefer to hold off until we've gotten a bunch of things sorted out before we have anybody come in.
No problem. And Ashley, listen, after we go through your place, you can come see my place. If you want to see a real mess, come see my house. I've got 6 dogs and a bunch of kids and everything else. Don't worry. I've been through every type of property in the past. Okay. We can look past all that. But what it'll do for you is, one, it'll put a face to a name. Two, I'm going to send my stager in afterwards. And my stager is actually going to be the one who goes room to room and gives you a list of what you need to do, what you don't need to do. Okay. It's going to be an easy how-to booklet. That way, you have some guidance, you have some structure, and we have a timeline. The last thing I want to do is have you miss the market. Okay. If you noticed last year, everybody who hit June to November, they essentially missed the market. I want to make sure we put you ahead of that. So I've got tomorrow at this time or that time. What works best?
That time.
That time.
Yeah.
And then they would just go that time. I had to use like 3 different scripts, but Sean has heard in the past on that one too. In that one, you made me go different directions. And the guys, that's why you practice, is because then you can pull other stuff out and you kind of go, oh, okay. And it's true. We do have 6 dogs.
That's
I laugh
amazing.
at that. And I show them pictures. Look at my dash hounds. They're all wiener dogs. They're crazy.
We have one dog, but we have 5 kids. So
There you go.
5 kids, 6 kids also.
Just to a point too, one thing, if someone answers, and thank you, Ashley, I'll take you out of the hot seat. Thank you so much, though. That was fun. So if someone asks, if someone's uncomfortable with their home, just remind them that like the way that humans live inside homes is different than the way that homes look when they're listed for sale, and that's okay. We are used to coming in to properties that humans are living in. So if you're a human, I'm okay with coming into whatever you got because I've seen it all. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to help you make it look like the stuff on MLS. That's my job. I'm just going to share one little anecdote for this one because we did really well every spring with this, because you can actually use this same dialogue of getting a home ready and preparing as a way to line your spring inventory. So we come in January, and I got some of my coaches on the call right now. They're going to crack a molar, because I would actually turn off lead generation on my team for the first 3-4 weeks in January. And all we would do is make sure that before we got into talking to anybody new, we spoke to every single person in our database who told us that they might want to sell that year. And the call was really simple. I'd just call through my list and I'd just say, hey, it's Sean calling, Path Real Estate Team. I'm just putting in a little courtesy call. We spoke last year. You told us that there was a chance you might want to move this year. And right now what we're doing is we're calling everyone to book an appointment because we're offering free consults on how to prep your home for sale. Now, I know it's January and we always talk about the spring market. being a great time to list your home. And it's kind of crazy to talk about spring in January in Toronto when we have probably 9 more months of cold weather ahead of us. But the reality is that we never know when the market's going to peak. We have a highly seasonal market, and prices will often swing by $20,000, $30,000, $50,000 from 1 month to the next, sometimes from 1 week to the next. So our goal is that we come by, we'd offer you a 20-minute consult, help you figure out how to start the preparation process. And that way you're ahead of the game. So if the market's really good in February, as opposed to say March or April, you can take advantage of that, and you're not going to be less shuffling, because it usually takes a few weeks to get property ready. I've got Tuesday or Thursday, which is better for you, blah, blah, blah. Worked really, really well. You just line up your whole year. Okay. David, you're so polite. You've got your hand up. I see you, buddy. You're right here. I've got you pinned. You're all I see. You're muted.
Sorry, it's my first day on Zoom. The other thing I want to just add to both of those, and more just build on, is you have to have a reason to stop by. That's the big thing. Like, and it has to be a reason in their mind. And one thing I really think about in scripting or role play, or however you want to say it in general, is that it's all rooted in logic. It has to make sense. And if it makes sense to somebody, then they're going to do it. So everything that Shaw and Sean just said, like, it really, really makes sense.
Are you adding value? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It goes back to the whole, like, you're not going to whambazzle someone into paying more than they should for a set of service. What you got to do is have great service and then be able to explain it to someone really eloquently.
Can I add to that a little bit, Sean?
Please, 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 please.
So, I mean, I think what's shared is brilliant. Shaw, that was a masterful script. That was fun to listen to.
Made up on the spot.
Yeah.
15 years of practice.
Yeah, right. Every single day, path to mastery. I think if we reframe in our own mind what objections are, because objections are really buying signals. It's an indication that our client is giving serious consideration to moving forward, but they feel like, in order to justify with logic what they're experiencing emotionally, they need to put up an objection, or they need to ask for clarification, or they need something more to satisfy the logic part of the process. And so my experience has been, a lot of times they really are not even that concerned with what they're asking about. They just want to see what our confidence and capability is to respond when there's some resistance that comes up. Because they're also hiring us to be their advocate in this process. And our negotiation skills and our communication skills are going to be essential elements in their success. So I believe that that is really part of the process. And as far as having the reason, what I'm always looking for is, from a progression perspective, where does the process need to go next? If someone's asking me about buying a house, before I invest a lot of time and energy in going out and showing them homes, I want to know that they can actually buy a house, which we refer to as pre-qualification. But the way that I'm going to phrase that is, well, Sean, it seems like what would be valuable to you right now is to understand which home mortgage options might be the best fit for you. And so in order to do that, I would recommend that you consult with, and basically what I'm doing is just teeing up an appointment with a lender. But I'm not using language like pre-qualification. So I think if we're relating to them in that way, which is just like popping by the house to do a walk around and be face-to-face and solidify commitment in their intention to list, if we're presenting it as the next valuable thing that we can offer to them, we're actually able to move people through the process effectively.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Okay. I want to choose one more from the list that we had dropped in the chat. And I'm going to ask our panelists to choose one. What's something from the chat that you think would be of value for us to touch on right now? And then do this knowing that we're going to have to get through quick. I'm going to give us only about 5 minutes. And then after that, we're going to hammer you guys with objection after objection after objection, see what you can get past.
I definitely think the most useful one there is, my brother is a realtor, just because it's not market dependent. You're going to find that all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. That's awesome. All right, David, are you gonna fix this for us, or do you want to you're gonna pass the baton?
Yeah, no, I'll fix it. And it's funny because one of my My second deal, this literally happened. It was her brother, and she had worked with him before, and he did a terrible job. So she was looking somewhere else, but she was kind of going back and forth. Now, to be honest, this really did not go well for their family in the end. They're not in speaking terms anymore. But the important thing is that I got paid. No, I'm just kidding. The important thing is that they got a great place and they sold at a really high amount too. So at the end of the day, and this is kind of where you go into this script, is at the end of the day, you don't owe them anything and you don't owe me anything, but you do owe yourself the best. Don't you want the best agent working for you? And there's a couple of things you can do before that as well that I like. Family's a little different than friends. That one, I'm much more comfortable with the friend one than the family one. I feel like you have to be a little more cautious with that. But at the end of the day, if you're on the side where you're not the family member, you have to prioritize that person's relationship. So, for instance, did you know that right now, 3 out of 4 realtor assisted transactions are not making it to the closing table with the same exact terms as were originally negotiated? And they're going to say, I didn't know that, because who knows that? I barely know that. And then I'm going to say, so that means that there's a 75% chance that you're going to have a really tough conversation, or even worse, fire your brother. So how would that end up going at family dinner if that's what ends up happening? And then if they are, there's basically 2 ways you can go from there, in my opinion. The first is if they're like, it'll be pretty awkward, you agree with them, and let's do the right thing, and then you want to also give them something, say, so let's do the right thing, preserve that relationship. And what I'd really like to do as well is, let's make sure we give your brother a chance to get paid as well. Let's give him the opportunity to bring in a buyer before anybody else, to make sure that he has that opportunity to get commission as well. And then if they're like, no, I think it would be, sorry, I lost myself.
Okay. I'll just share while you're thinking too, guys. Here's the deal. This objection is not always at the finish line. Often this objection comes in before you even get in the door. Yeah. So David was hinting at this, and I'm just going to give you a quick line. If someone is apprehensive about interviewing someone other than a family member, I really like to just shine a flashlight on them having the priority of themselves. And I'd say something really simple like, let me ask you a question. Like, is this transaction of significant financial importance to you, or does the outcome here not really matter? What do you think they're going to say? And say, well, based on that, wouldn't you agree that you owe it to yourself and your family to know what your options are? So here's the deal. Just have me come in. I'll be your second opinion. And frankly, if after you've met with me, I'm not clearly a better choice, and this one I'm stealing directly from Shaw, if I'm not clearly a better choice, I wouldn't expect you to work with me. But usually once I've met with people, they see a lot of value that they weren't seeing anywhere else. And I hope that gives me the opportunity to work with you. It's just simple. Let them have the choice and help them get a second opinion. That whole second opinion thing, I've sold so many houses from. It's just dead simple. Anything else on moving family members out of the way?
Yeah, just that last, the thing that I kind of dropped the ball on was, if they say that their relationship is really solid with that person, as in it could survive something like that, I just go with, well, that's perfect then. So they're probably going to be really understanding that you want to preserve that relationship. And that has worked every time.
Awesome. Yeah. And don't think that it's a closed door just because someone has a family member. I once was chasing this FSBO, and so for sale by owner, and she told me that anyways, if she did ever hire an agent, she'd hire her daughter because her daughter was an agent. I was like, oof, that's going to be a tough one. I promised to call her back 2 days later, called her back 2 days later. Shame on me. I should have been more direct, because she hired an agent before I had a chance to call her back. and it wasn't her daughter. Fold. Never even gave her a chance. All right, guys. Anything else on moving family members or other trusted people aside to win a piece of business?
I always make a joke, and you'll know the script. I always make a joke, and I'll do it with David. David, listen. I was driving down the road the other day. I got pulled over by a cop. I guess I was speeding. I didn't know. And when he came up to my window, he said, "Can I get your driver's license, insurance, and real estate membership card?" I thought, "What? What are you talking about?" I said, "How do you know I'm a realtor?" He goes, "Isn't everybody?" And what I'm saying is, everybody out there knows a realtor. Everybody has a family member in real estate. Okay. So what I want to ask you is, David, would you be open-minded to having me in and just listening to what I have to say about getting your home sold? And at the end of the day, if what I say is exactly the same as your family member, then you can go ahead and work with them. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with sitting down and having a quick 20 minutes with you. But let me tell you, if what we do isn't night and day different, then go with them. Fair enough?
Absolutely.
And that's to get in the door. And then at the table, I shift it to the doubt drop, right? The doubt drop is always going to be, let me ask you, are you certain that you want to have a large transaction like this? Because like you guys all said about the caveats that show up, and I literally made a script, David, when literally wrote one down about how you handled that. The biggest thing when we are selling real estate is you're opening your financial books to your family. Okay. And I was told many years ago, we don't talk about money, religion, and politics with family because it just starts a fight. Okay. And at the end of the day, if we're in a position where we need to negotiate or we need to fight for you, and I have to have a tough conversation either with you or whoever's bringing us an offer, I'm going to have that tough conversation because you and I, we just have a business relationship. But a lot of times what I find with family members is that they're afraid to have that tough conversation because it is financially driven. Does that make sense? So Dave, would you give me 30 days to show you that I'm the agent that get your home sold? And if at the end of the 30 days, I can't do this for you, how about you work with your family member?
I think that sounds really fair.
It'll be sold by 30 days, or I'm doing such a good job that they're not going to handle the family member. Goal is there at the table to make sure I have something signed, right? So I'll do whatever length listing. They want a 7-day listing. I'll take a 7-day listing, but I will communicate with that person every single day for 7 days to make sure at the end of that 7 days, we continue on. Make sense? Because again, it's $10,000 paycheck every time I walk in or whatever, $20,000 paycheck every time we sign a contract.
I just learned something really great there. I use that one on the buy side all the time. I've never used it on the sell side. So thank you. That was
Legally, we're not allowed to do under 60 days, but it's a slap on the wrist.
Yeah.
We do a lot of things we're not allowed to do.
Right. All right. Here's what I can't any longer. I'm like gonna burst. We're gonna hammer you guys with some objections. Here's what I think we're gonna do because we were kind of raising our hand through this. We're gonna pick on you one by one. We'll do about, I don't know how many we'll get through. I won't go much more than 5-6 minutes. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop a list of objections in the chat. Okay. And then I'm going to ask, I could do this, guys, but I had a lot of fun when Ashley kind of put her hand up, and I think we kind of more told her than she volunteered, but we'll work with it. I'm going to ask if anyone here wants to volunteer, raise your digital hand. You are not going to have to answer objections. All you're going to be doing is pulling objections off the list I provide you. And you're going to provide an objection. They're going to give you the best management on that objection that they can. And then you're going to immediately give them another one. And we're going to just see how many they can get through. Okay. So if anyone wants to do this, raise your virtual hand. Otherwise, I'm happy to actually, we'll get one of our panelists to do it or something like that. Who's gonna role play here? You better hurry up. You don't have too long. Ashley, she's back. Bless you. Okay, this is awesome. I'm going to drop the objections. Why is this not pasting? Is this going to work? Oh, I gotta send this in a couple chunks. I've got so many objections here. I hope you guys start to sweat and quiver.
You'll look for an easier client.
Here, I've got those. I'll give you a couple more in the next one. No, that didn't work.
And we're just going to round robin quick objection. You guys just want to hear the goods, eh? You just want to hear what we would finalize on this.
Yeah, so as opposed to qualifying and getting into like a longer dialogue, I think that would be better if you could just like really quickly just give them the handler. and then move on. That would be a best case scenario. And we're going to do one at a time. And we are going to start with, so I'm going to Ashley, I'm going to raise your hand, sir. I might say TJ here at the same time. Add spotlight. So Ashley's going to be the client with all of the questions. And then let's start out with David. David, you're in the hot seat, big guy. You ready?
Yes.
All right, Ashley. Let's go. You're just going to give them one after another. If you ask you a question, feel free to interact. Let's try to keep the qualifying and the conversational stuff down. We're just going to give a handler. I know that we'd be better off to understand, isolate, and manage the objection, but we're just going to focus on the management side just for the sake of time. Okay?
You seem really professional, but I think I'm going to stick with the last agent that I used.
Absolutely. And I think that if that's what you feel comfortable with, that's a great idea. I'm just curious, what was it about them that you liked so much?
They're a great negotiator.
Oh, I love that. And what I always feel is that, like anything, if you're trying on a pair of shoes, you usually try on a couple pairs of shoes and see what fits best, right?
Yeah, you do.
Absolutely. So would you agree that in what's probably the biggest financial transaction of your life, it might be a good idea to get a second opinion? Just make sure that that's the right fit.
I could be open to that.
Perfect. Let's set an appointment, blah, blah, blah.
Okay, next. We're happy that you found us this great house, but we're not sure that it's perfect for us, and we're gonna have to think about it.
Totally understand. And what is it about it that's not perfect?
No, it's perfect. We're just, we just want to make sure that we're sure, so we're gonna have to think about it. I'm a sleep on it kind of gal.
I completely understand. And remind me, how many houses have we seen so far?
We've seen, I don't know, 15, 20, I don't remember.
And how many do you think you've seen online?
Online? Probably hundreds of properties online.
Okay. And have you seen a better one for this price? Something that fits your goals better?
No, but like I said, I like to sleep on things.
100%. And I have one last question for you about this, and then I'll let you go to sleep if you want.
Okay.
My question is, if you slept on it and overnight you lost out on the house, would you be okay with that? Or would you wish that you had put in an offer?
Oh no. I probably would wish that I put in an offer.
In that case, I think we should put in an offer, at least get the dialogue started, and see what happens.
Okay. Listing presentation, you did a fantastic job, but we're gonna think about it again, but different scenario.
Do we want to swap to someone else? Because I will go through all of these.
Yeah, sure. All right, I'm gonna say we'll pass it off to Shaw.
Okay, say again. Do it again.
Okay,
Think
fantastic.
about it.
Yeah, we're glad you did a great listing presentation, but we're gonna have to think about it.
Perfect. And let me ask you, what is it exactly you have to think about?
We just want to make sure that we're choosing the right salesperson to get our home sold.
Okay. Ashley, I like you. Do you like me?
I do.
Right? You got a date before you get married, right?
Yeah, you do. You should probably see a few people before you settle down.
Reality is, I'm excited about your house. I like your house. It's a beautiful home, and I want to work for you. Okay. I actually want to go back, call my stager, call my photographer, get them lined up. Okay. Well, your home may go on the market in a week and a half, but I want to start working for you tonight. Okay. So if I can go back to my office and start working on those things, do you think we can work together today?
I mean, it sounds like you're prepared to start working for us immediately.
I'm ready. I'm ready and I'm excited. Fair enough.
Okay, what if we just, there's one other person we might want to see. We've
No
got
problem.
one
Actually,
more.
what I'll do is I'll give them a call, let them know you decided to work with us. And when I get those photos taken, I'm going to send all those photos to them. Okay. That way they're not going to have to leave their family, leave their kids, leave what they're doing, and they can actually make some more money because they won't have to put any money into getting this listing ready. They'll be able
Well,
to find
that other agent has actually been in business way longer than you. So I really would like to meet with them.
Well, Ash, let me ask you. What kind of phone do you use? Do you have an iPhone?
Yeah.
Is it an iPhone 1?
No.
No, which one do you have?
It's maybe like the second most recent.
Second most recent one.
Yeah.
And do you think that one does a better job than the iPhone 1?
for sure.
What I'm saying here is sometimes we have this analogy that things that are older are better, but they're not, right? And the reality is, what you want is a company and a team or an individual or a brokerage that's up to date with the way the selling market's gone. Because in the last couple of years, hasn't our world changed?
Yeah, it's really technology based. In fact, I've been doing a lot of reading online, and I mean, part of me is thinking I might just sell this place myself.
You might just sell it yourself. And Ashley, have you sold a home in the past yourself?
No, but if I can save 50 grand, why not?
Save. So really, you don't want to sell it yourself. You want to save the most amount of money, right?
Yeah, I want to make sure that I can net the most amount of money possible.
Okay. And through our marketing, everything else, are you certain that we can get you the top dollar for this? Does it look like that?
It looks like you could.
Good. So Ashley, what I'm trying to get at is at the end of the day, if you're driving away from the sale and you've got a check, and that check is the biggest darn check you've seen, it'll be an Ed McMahon check. You're driving away, it's under your shoulder, and it's got the
Mhm.
most amount of money on it. Does it matter how much you pay us?
I mean, not really, but could I ask you this then?
Sure.
Let's say it really is a massive check, best check. Could we buffer that a little bit by you giving me a little bit of cash back from your commission?
A little bit of cash back. Ashley, what do you do for a living?
I train realtors.
Train realtors. So you're a real estate coach. What did you do before this?
Before I worked in an office.
Office. And in that office, if I came into your office and asked you to do some work for me, I would pay you and then I'd ask for some back. What would you tell me?
I would think that that was probably a little weird and I would be
Little,
offended.
little weird, but I'm not going to tell you that. The reality is, what I am going to say is, I will make sure that money that we technically you're expecting us to give you back, we're going to put into your listing. Okay, so at the end of the day, you're actually going to walk away with that money in your pocket because you're going to get more money for your home. Okay, can I give you cash back legally? No, I can't legally with our real estate board. And actually, I don't know if an agent says they're willing to come in and sell your home and give you cash back, they don't care about you. They only care about selling your home and getting a little bit of money and giving you some back. What I care about is making sure you have the most amount of money at the end of the day. Okay. And what I also care about is selling real estate tomorrow and beyond. Okay.
Mhm.
So if I'm willing to break the rules right now and say, yes, I'm going to give you cash back on the sale of this home, what else do you think I'm going to willing to bend on when offers start coming in on your home?
I don't know. Would you make other decisions that are against the rules if it would
Absolutely
benefit
not.
me?
Absolutely not. I will never do anything that cuts me off at the knees inside of the transaction. I will never do anything in the sales process of your home to make sure that I compromise your fiduciary duties. Fair enough?
That sounds fair to me.
Perfect.
And give him six more. He was just warming up. He's like, I could go all day, baby.
I
That was
know.
awesome.
I'm like, let me just like roll them all into the list.
You did great. You're getting into it. Ashley's going to call and book 6 realtors in for listing presentations at her house just because she's enjoying torturing you to be like,
Really good.
I found a new hobby. Okay, Eric, are you ready? We're gonna beat you up last, but definitely not least.
I don't know after these two guys if I'm ready for that. This is like next level stuff here. So it's fun to watch the pros do their thing.
Yeah. Well, I think we'll switch to the buyer side. How's that sound, Eric?
Sounds great.
Okay. So, we'll say you're trying to book a buyer consultation with me,
Mhm.
and I'm glad to know that you're a professional. You work with a lot of buyers, but I'm just gonna look on MLS for properties, and I'll just get the listing agents to show me. Don't they have this new? Yeah, I'll just do that.
Oh, Ashley, hey, I understand your desire to look at as many homes as possible and make the process as efficient as possible. Is that your goal?
Oh yeah, it's easier for me just to go straight to the source.
Okay. And what do you think is the benefit to you in that?
Well, I heard a lot of listing agents will give you a deal on the property because they don't have to pay another agent commission. And I'd like to take advantage of that.
Okay. All right. So you want to be able to negotiate directly with the listing agent. Is that correct?
Yeah, I have some experience with writing contracts and I think I could definitely hold my own.
Oh, that's fantastic. So it sounds like you have some skills in negotiation and some experience around real estate.
I like to think so.
That's awesome. Just out of curiosity, it sounds like you have purchased a home before. Is that right?
Yeah, I've purchased a home before.
Okay. How many homes have you purchased in the last 20 years?
2.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's awesome. Well, congratulations on that. I think home ownership is one of the greatest things that we can do.
Yeah.
So, well, I have complete confidence just from communicating with you and your ability to communicate and your professionalism and your understanding of the real estate market. What I would offer, though, to your advantage is that I've actually successfully closed hundreds and hundreds of buyer purchases in that same time frame. So the experience that I've gained in that process has given me some insights that you may not have. The other thing that I would ask for you to consider is a listing agent has signed a contract with a seller and they've committed to be their fiduciary, which means that they're going to put the seller's interest ahead of all else in the transaction, including yours. So by having someone that is a professional representative for you to advocate on your behalf and make sure that your best interests are honored is really an advantage to you. And if just getting a discount on the house is what's important to you, we'll make every effort to make that happen for you. Does that sound fair?
Yeah, I'm a little bit concerned that the market will tank, and so I really do want to make sure that I don't overpay. Are you a specialist in this neighborhood?
Absolutely. Yeah, I work in this neighborhood all the time. And what I think is important to consider is that most of the concern about the market tanking is based on misinformation in the media. And the reality is that statistically speaking, the data from our market does not support that myth. And so what I'd like to do is sit down with you so we can walk through the numbers together. I believe that my most important role is to help educate and inform you so that you're equipped to make empowered decisions.
Okay, that sounds good. Part of the reason why I was wanting to go directly to those listing agents is because I'm just so busy. Like I've got so much going on all the time. I just don't know that I have the time to sit down and meet with you.
I understand that completely. What we could do is just hop on a quick Zoom. We'll take 10, 15 minutes. We'll walk through all your questions and concerns, make sure that you're very clear on how this process works and that you feel completely confident in moving forward. Does that sound good?
Could we do that at one of the houses that I want to go and see?
Absolutely. I'd be happy to do that with you.
Okay, great. So you're willing to take me out on showings tonight?
Let me check. It depends which house you want to see because it's always dictated by the seller's schedule and they're being willing to accommodate our appointment. What's the address of the house that you wanted to see tonight?
123 Main Street.
Okay, awesome. 123 Main Street. And what time were you thinking would work best for your schedule?
7:30.
Okay, 7:30. Awesome. Let me do this. Let me check in with the seller. I'll contact their agent right away. I'll make sure that they can accommodate a showing tonight, and then I will give you a call back or a text. Which one would you prefer?
Give me a call back.
Okay, that sounds great, Ashley. I look forward to meeting with you a little bit later tonight.
Okay, thanks, Eric.
My pleasure.
That was awesome. I loved the diversity of the three. Like David had really purposeful reactions to everything. Shaw was kind of like fun and quippy about it. Like you couldn't help but chuckle. I loved the iPhone 1. I hadn't heard that one yet.
That
And
was
it's just
awesome.
like
Made that up.
it perfectly nailed it.
And she was
Yeah,
going
that
like,
was
oh
awesome.
shit, I know where this is going.
Yeah, absolutely. And then Eric, he's so humble, right? He's like, oh, I don't know if I could stand up to this. And he's just like so calm. You know, a great book on negotiations for anyone who hasn't read it is Never Split the Difference. And he talks a lot in Never Split the Difference about this radio personality. So when you're in a hard conversation, just being like the calm, consistent voice. And man, Eric, I could put you in my earbuds when I'm trying to go to sleep and just kind of like you were like a calm lake, my friend. I'd follow you in a forest fire. That was awesome.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna quickly just ask the group for some takeaways. We've had a lot of fun. We've heard all kinds of stuff. Ashley, you were great too, by the way. You were like so on it. You had
Thanks,
those all
Ashley.
teed up.
Way to jump in.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. I'm gonna unpin you so you can feel like you're less in the spotlight. And I'm just going to ask for anyone to share. Feel free to unmute or raise your virtual hand. Let's do a couple takeaways. What did you take away from this that would change how you're looking at the practice of dialogues, building scripting maybe into your business? or even just like one cool thing you heard that you're going to put in your quiver, as Shaw said. Let's hear from the group. You can unmute, you can raise your virtual hand using the reactions button, or you could even drop it in the chat. And don't be shy. And while I'm doing,
You know what I'm using? I'm using Eric's price, positioning, promotion. Changing.
Yeah.
We do a similar thing in our listing presentation, but those 3 words are so specific, and they flow together. I'm using that. The way we got to sell your home is 3 ways: price, positioning, promotion. Right? We use it
3
this.
Ps. It used to be put it on, pop a sign on the lawn, put it on MLS, and pray someone else sells your listing. But you know, times have changed since the iPhone 1, and
That's
off
right.
we go, right?
The good
The
3
iPhone 1 was
that-
brilliant. Shaw, I would just add to that, when we were talking about the pop by appointment for a pre-listing, then when I talk about positioning, we'll talk about 2 of the 3 things that you control. 2 of the 3 things you control as a seller. We'll take care of the promotion, but you're always going to get to choose the price that works for you. And the positioning starts with preparation and presentation. That's what feeds positioning. And so that's really the purpose of my visit today, is to just give you some tips and some feedback on that to make sure that you're well prepared so we can properly position your house in the market.
Good. Yeah, I wrote that down.
Hey, I've got a hand in the air. David, I want to hear one from you in a minute, but I'm going to go to Bal. Hey, thanks for
Hi.
coming in.
Yeah, so the one thing that I'm going to be taking away and practicing is understand, isolate, and overcome. And I think do that again and again and again. Yeah, and become an expert at that, I think. Try.
Well, that's so great. That's such a simple thing to just build into your practice, because you don't even, I mean, we all should do 30 minutes of scripting every morning as a way of kind of stretching our muscles. But like, you could just say that anytime I have someone ask me a question, I'm going to use that, and you'll naturally start to find yourself in a better pattern in the conversations you're in. Thanks, Paul. David, how about you?
Actually, just to add onto that one, there's a 4th step that I bet money Shaw does without listing it, but it's close. And so you don't want to forget to, after you overcome the objection, actually take it forward and close with it.
Oh, what a beautiful note to make. And I'm just going to say, guys, you know, we have this mindset around asking for business that it's like selfish of us somehow. And what often happens is that instead we use language patterns that are passive aggressive. We wait for them to ask. We put them in a position where they need to instigate the forward motion, right? Saying something like, you know, well, let me know when you're ready to get started is passive aggressive. We're putting the ball in their court. It shouldn't be in their court. We're supposed to be the professionals. So give them the option. Once you've handled the objection, like David says, offer them to close. It's not selfish of you. It's not taking something from them. It's giving them something of value. So, hey, we're right at time. We are back on April 23rd. I'm doing a masterclass on a listing presentation. I'm going to give you from the moment you knock on their door till you leave with a contract, exactly the set of steps that I would follow every single time. And then as well, we are launching, I was talking with Shaw earlier about we're launching a top agent coaching group. And a lot of what we do is going to be honing our skills surrounding all this stuff. If you want to learn more about that, there's a QR code on the bottom of the screen. You can grab that, and we'll book you into to learn a little bit about what it includes, what it's all going to look like. And the listing presentation masterclass is free, guys. So come hang out. We'll give you a whole bunch of value. We'd love to see all of you there. And anyone else has questions, we're happy to hang out. Otherwise, I just want to quickly say a huge thank you to our 3 amazing panelists, Shaw, David, and Eric. You guys were absolutely outstanding. I'm going to give an honorable mention to Ashley. That was really fun. You were great. And thank you everyone for making time for this today. That was awesome.
Sean, thanks so much for putting this together for everybody.
Yeah.
It's absolutely my pleasure.
Hey guys, I got to go use these scripts on a listing presentation.
Get him, big guy.
You guys.
Great to connect, everybody. Thank you. Thanks, Sean.
Thanks, everyone. We'll see you next time.